Hello my dear friends, this is Rajesh Mahapatra. I hope all of you are doing well and happiness. In this session, I briefly explained more details about GKE standard cluster in Google Cloud Platform. You can learn more information field detail for creating a GKE standard cluster, and I'll show you inside the lab in both GKE regional and zonal standard cluster so that you can learn more details about the GKE standard cluster in this session, and based on your project requirement you can easily implement it. Guys, let's get started.
Guys, as you can see here, this is the Google Cloud Compute Engine web portal. Now I'll guide you how do you create a Kubernetes engine cluster inside the Google Cloud console web page. Guys, as you can see here, this is the Kubernetes engine section here. You click on Kubernetes engine here. As you can see here guys, this is the Kubernetes engine web portal page. Now guys, just you click on cluster here as you can see here. Then guys, you can click on create button as you can see here, and as you can see here also the create button is available here. Click on create button. Then guys, click on let's get started. As you can see here guys, this is the default create an autopilot cluster mode here. Now guys, I'll guide you how do you create a new standard cluster or standard GKE cluster based on your project requirement. Guys, as you can see here, this is the one button is showing here, switch to standard cluster. Click on switch to standard cluster here guys. Then again you click on switch to standard cluster here, because guys as you can see here switch from autopilot to standard cluster now. Then click on switch to standard cluster here and wait a couple of seconds. Now guys, I'll guide you all the respective information field here. Then you can select and fill all the information field based on your project requirement. Guys, first you can fill the name of the cluster, standard cluster regional. As I mentioned the name of the cluster as standard cluster regional here guys. Then you can select guys here regional and zonal as you can see here based on your project requirement. Now I'll guide you. I'll select here regional based on my project requirement, but if you want to select the zonal cluster here guys, then as you can see here in the right hand side the estimate monthly cost is approximately $177. But if your requirement is regional, then if you select the regional, then you can see here the estimate monthly cost approximately $384. Then guys, based on your requirement you can select here it. Then you don't forget about to select your appropriate or desired region based on your project requirement. I select here as the default US Central one, but if is your requirement like US East, Europe, Asia, and wherever you want, just you can select here it guys. Then guys, you know the control plane version, then select static and release channel. Release channel lets GKE automatically manage the cluster plane version. You can select default as well here, there is no issue. Then guys, I'll guide you now how do you fill all the information field for node pools and cluster. Guys, as you can see here, there is two option is available here for the cluster information. One is node pools, another is cluster. First, I'll give some idea about the node pools. Click on default pool here guys. Then as you can see here the couple of information field is available here. Click on nodes first. Then as you can see here guys the image type. Then you can select the image like Ubuntu, Windows based on your project requirement as you can see here. Similarly guys, in the machine configuration, if you want to E2 series, N2 series, N1 series, based on your project requirement, guys, you can select here for series. Now guys, you can select similarly for machine type already, as you know guys. Then boot disk and boot disk size, if you want to 100, 200, 300, based on your requirement, you can select it. And rest of the field, as you can see here, boot disk encryption, if you have a customer managed encryption key, then you can select here. Unless just you can leave as it is guys. For default Google manage encryption key, Google will be managed for that encryption key for your standard GKE. Then guys, in networking field, if you want to add the maximum ports for node, but here briefly mention the cluster settings specify 110 ports for node, then you leave as it is guys. Or if you want to increase, then based on your requirement, you can add here the network tags. And I don't have any private VPC and the CIDR range, so I leave as it is guys. Once I will complete all the VPC and storage bucket session, then I will again show you demo how do you select for that all the node networking parts here. Then in the security and metadata guys, you can select here service account, the default service account for your project. Then rest of the field you leave as it is guys. Then metadata means node data, Kubernetes level, node tenants level, GC instance. If you have any information field, then you can add here. Then guys, as you can see here the cluster. Inside the cluster, click on automation. As you can see here guys, this is the maintenance policy. This is very important point guys. You can select here the enable maintenance window. Based on your project requirement and it's a project schedule, you can select here. So for an example, weekly editor means you must at least 48-hour maintenance availability in 32-day rolling window. As you can see here, there is briefly mentioned here. If you want to fix your start time based on your local time zone, and you can fix your date also. For an example, if you want to only maintenance window select for Saturday Sunday, then that is fine. And if you want to select whole week, then you can select all the checkbox here. Then guys, this auto scaling part, you want to add in auto scaling part, then you can select here both. Then guys, you have to add for that CPU resource type, CPU minimum 1, maximum what, based on your project requirement. This is very important section guys. I select as it is a default 1 for this practical purpose. Then service account I selected as default. If you have a project service account, then you can select your drop down and select the service account here guys. Then the surge upgrade maximum 1 or max available 0, based on your project requirement, you can select here guys. Then node pool location, if you are any zonal cluster, then select the specific zonal, but I select as regional here, so all the zones is available here, it is showing us. Then if you want to select anything for specific zone, then you can select here node pool location. But I selected all the information field as it is default. But you remember guys, you can select all the automation section and auto scaling section. This is a very important section for like the standard cluster mode. Then in networking section guys, I don't have any private VPC or network, so that I selected as default here, as already then I leave all the information field here as it is. Then guys, and rest of the field I'll show you in the demo and again once we complete all the session. Then guys, you click on create button here. As you can see here guys, as you can see here, the cluster is being created here now, and I'll show you. Just guys, you navigate to the compute engine web portal page. Then I'll show you how many VM are created based on your cluster requirement. As you can see here, the 3 GKE standard cluster VM is created here, and again just will navigate to that Kubernetes engine web portal page. As you can see here guys, the number of nodes is 3, so that you can visible here in the compute engine web portal page as 3 VM or 3 node is successfully created here now based on your project requirement. Once the cluster is ready, then I'll show you how do you modify your node based on your project requirement. For an example guys, if your project requirement like you can increase the node 3 to 4 or 5 based on your requirement, then how could you modify your node inside the GKE standard cluster? I'll guide you. Let's navigate to the Kubernetes engine web portal page and wait a guys 4 to 5 minutes to create the standard cluster regional here now. Once the cluster is created successfully, then I'll guide you how do you modify your standard GKE cluster based on your project requirement. Guys, as you can see here, the standard cluster regional is successfully created here now. Now guys, I'll guide you how do you modify your standard cluster based on your project requirement. I mean, how do you modify your GKE standard cluster based on your project requirement? Guys, first of all, you select your standard cluster here. As you can see here, standard cluster here. Then click on the name of the standard cluster here. Then guys, you click on nodes as you can see here. Then guys, next you can click on default pool here. Now guys, I'll guide you how do you resize your number of nodes. For an example, you required 3, 4, 5, 6 based on your requirement. Then how do you increase the number of nodes or nodes based on your project requirement? But guys, you remember that whenever you create a GKE standard cluster, the default number of nodes is 3. Then if you want to increase the number of node like 4, 5, 6, then I'll guide you here now. Then guys, as you can see here, the two option, you click on edit option here, edit button option here, or either you can click resize button here. I'll show you both guys. First I'll show you in the edit button here. Click on edit button here. Then if you want to change the number of size 4, 4, 5, 6 based on the requirement, you can resize the number here. Then click on save here. Or guys, in another option here, you can click on resize button here. Click on resize button here. Then directly you add the number 4. I'll add the number 4 here. Or if I want to add the number 5 also here based on my project requirement. For an example, I'll add the number as 4 here. Then I click on resize and you wait a couple of seconds, like 1 minute it will take. Then I'll show you once you resize your number of nodes as 4, then automatically it will be reflect once the number of nodes resize successfully completed. Click on refresh. It might take couple of seconds more. Then guys, navigate to the compute engine web portal page here. As you can see here guys, the number of nodes as 4 here. Before you have seen 3 nodes. After resize the node, then it automatically resize the number of node. Then you can see here the number of node increase 3 to 4. Similarly ways guys, you can resize your number of nodes based on your project requirement. And as you can see here, the number of node is showing as 4 here also guys now. Then guys, I'll guide you how do you delete your GKE standard cluster, because guys, avoid the unnecessary bill for your Google Cloud. Guys, now I'll guide you how do you delete the standard GKE standard cluster. As you can see here guys, the standard cluster regional is available here. First you select the GKE standard cluster here, then click on delete button here, then write the name of the standard cluster, then GKE standard cluster here guys, then as you can see here, click delete button, then click on delete button here. Once you delete the standard GKE standard cluster here guys, then you navigate to the Compute Engine web portal page, then click on refresh button here guys, and as you can see here guys, the instance is being stopped now. The 4 node instance is stopped now. It might take couple of minutes guys to remove all the nodes. Then click on refresh guys and wait a couple of more minutes more to instance or is your node, or as you can see here the VM is stopped permanently from the Compute Engine web portal page. Then again navigate to the Kubernetes engine web portal page guys. Guys, as you can see here now, the number of nodes showing as 0 here, and the total memory also showing as 0 here, and it might take couple of minutes more to destroy or the delete your GKE standard cluster here now guys. Click on refresh again and I'll show you in the Compute Engine web portal page also. As you can see here guys, there is no VM is available here now. Now guys, I hope so you can understand now how do you create a GKE standard cluster and how do you modify your GKE standard cluster based on your requirement. You can increase your node based on your project requirement. Once you have successfully complete your lab session, then you can easily delete your GKE standard cluster. Let's guys navigate to GKE cluster here. As you can see here guys, there is no cluster is available here now guys. GKE standard cluster is successfully deleted here now. Now guys, I hope so you can understand all the concept for GKE standard cluster. Thank you and have a great day.